Success is largely a result of simply being persistent. Thomas Edison said that many of life's failures are people who didn't realize how close they were to success when they gave up. And persistence, it's valuable in virtually every part of life. And your prayer life is no exception. In Matthew chapter 7, beginning in verse 7, Jesus says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks it will be opened." Now, if we were reading this passage in the original Greek, we would see that Jesus is saying, keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking, and you will receive, and you will find, and the door will be open to you. God doesn't just want us to pray to Him, He wants us to keep praying. He wants us to pray with persistence. So, good question might be, and definitely a good question, why are there times when we don't get what we pray for, even when we do persist? In Matthew chapter 7, let's look at Matthew chapter 7, verses 9 and 10. Here Jesus says, "Or which one of you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent?" Now, God gives us good things, definitely. And that means that if we ask for if we ask for a fish, God won't give us a stone, God won't give us a serpent. But sometimes, sometimes we're wise and sometimes we ask for good things. Sometimes we ask for bread and fish. But there are times when we're not so wise and we ask for stones and serpents, thinking we've asked for something good, when in fact what we've requested is something that would hurt us if God gave it to us. Sometimes we're like James and John, not knowing what we're asking for. Let's give an example. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's go to Mark chapter 10. Let's go to Mark chapter 10, verses 35 and 38, 35 through 38 rather. Of course, at this point, Jesus' apostles are very competitive. They're vying for status, thinking that Jesus is going to be an earthly king, and they're all trying to outdo each other to see who will be the highest in his court, the highest in his chosen few, his elite. In Mark chapter 10, beginning in verse 35, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came up to Jesus, and they said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What do you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory." And Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" Of course, they didn't know what they were asking for. Like James and John, sometimes we don't know what we're asking for. Sometimes we don't know that what would happen if we got the things that we wanted. And what we think is good isn't always good. Years ago, 2007, there was an interesting ABC news story. It was on 2020. It goes like this. On Christmas morning in 2002, a man named Jack Whitaker woke up and he got a bigger gift than he could ever have imagined, because he had won the Powerball lottery jackpot, and it was $315 million. And I've heard a lot of people, not too long ago, I was talking to somebody I hadn't seen in a while. He said, "Well, if I could just win the lottery, everything would be okay." I hear that a lot. You hear it a lot. But Whitaker later on said he regretted winning the lottery. He said, "Since I won the lottery, I think there's no control for greed." He said, "I think if you have something, there's always someone else who wants it." And he actually said, "I wish I'd torn that ticket up." Goes to show that we don't always know what's truly good, but God always does. God consistently gives us the good things that we need, even when bad things are what we've asked for, even when what God has given us isn't what we've asked for. Like human parents who know we need to eat our vegetables, God knows what's good, even when His children don't. Jesus completes, let's go back to Matthew chapter 7, where Jesus completes his words on prayer here. Matthew chapter 7. Verse 11, Jesus says, "If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him?" More than even the best human parent, God consistently gives us what we need. And the good news is that as we grow in wisdom, as we grow spiritually, as we become like-minded with God, what we ask for will be more likely to be the things that are truly good. Somebody said, and I don't know who, but I agree with the statement, God's will is what ours would be if we knew everything he knows. In the meanwhile, as we're growing into Christ the head, in the meanwhile, we need to keep praying. And we don't need to worry about saying the wrong thing because God always knows what we're trying to say. That's why some of the most reassuring words in the Bible when it comes to prayer are found in Romans 8, verse 26, where Paul says, "Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. For we don't know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words." Even when we're at a loss for words, God knows exactly what we're trying to say. God knows what we need. He knows what's truly good, and he won't give us anything less.